When we talked before, you talked to me a little bit about why you felt it was important to have a diversity of sages and guides, that maybe some of the sages and guides that we see in some of the hero epics are not right for everyone. Talk a little bit about that.
I would say one of the core tenets of my book is this elevation, repositioning, and celebration, really, of the Black sheep of the family, of which I feel LGBTQ people are the most classic sort of versions, or the classic ideas of that. We're the classic representations of the Black sheep. And what I love about that is that it helps reposition these people in our lives, these people in our families, these people in our communities that have traditionally been excluded and erased. We're typically regarded as cautionary tales. We're typically regarded as the people that you do not want to be. But I am here to say, and my book is here to say, is that those of us who espouse the idea of the Black sheep, the identity of the Black sheep, we are the disruptors, the defiers, and the redefiners of tradition, traditions that don't always include us. In fact, traditions that very actively exclude us. And I feel that, this is a unique opportunity for us to really see how people that have not always been elevated as heroes, whose lived experiences have not always been seen as sources of wisdom, right? As places that we should really rethink, particularly for those of us like LGBTQ people who have had to go through that journey of uncovering our truths, covering it up, and then uncovering it in celebration, right? Only to then face tons of violence in some cases and discrimination. And then that practice, really, that daily practice of having to negotiate which of ourselves is safe to uncover, is safe to surface. Like, that is something that we do very naturally as LGBTQ people. And I feel like there are some inherent lessons there that can certainly help drive non-LGBTQ people who may themselves identify as being the Black sheep of their family. I have to actually discover that as I've gone around the country, and I'm actually on a tour right now talking about my book, is that there is something very universal about the idea of the Black sheep. There's something very universal about feeling like you are set on this earth to change something. In fact, I've actually started my talks asking everyone in the room, raise your hand if you've ever disappointed your parents by your life decisions. And 2/3 of the room usually raises their hand. And I think a lot of that speaks to this idea that I think we are now in a time of history where we are being prompted and forced to question everything, to question traditions, question systems, and question all the inequities and injustices within them. And that is frankly what Black sheep and LGBTQ people who have, the ability to do that in their families, that is what they are able to do. And I think that's what they're able to teach. And to the question of why do I feel it's important to ever have more diversity in our sages and guides, it's because we have looked to a very archetypal, similar, we've had the same sages and the same guides for a really long time, right? The people that we have elevated as in our cultures, in our societies, as to who defines what success looks like, those kinds of people do not look like me. They do not live like me, nor do they love like me, nor the people in my community. And I think it is absolutely time for us to look elsewhere, especially for those of us who are working really hard to dismantle systems that oppress and exclude. And so for me, it's all about making sure that particularly people like myself who embody multiple marginalized identities can find sages and guides that have walked the path and specifically have traversed that path of trauma to triumph in a way that I would recognize and that is relevant to me.
Well said. And when we were talking about this, we talked about the fact that while you